Thanks for staying with us. You see, the very fabric and essence of family, which is trust and love, are being discarded. Reason there's distress and disintegration in the family and society at large. The DNA paternity fraud is of interest to us today, and we have a legal practitioner, barrister Oluyemi Orija, to take us through that conversation.
And also, Chizoba Ofegu returns with an unusual conversation promoting the Nigerian and African culture. On the culture segment, or on the culture conversation segment, it is fashion and style all the way with Dimeji Olori.
And of course, self-care, first aid, CPR, and value for life combine in our must-watch conversation with Dr. Tosin Oshikoya. It's a fact-finding and self-evaluation edition of the program today, and we can't wait to get started. Helen?
Yes, we can't wait to get started, and I have a few other things that I would have liked to talk about, but time is almost gone. I can breathe now, John.
Yes.
But no matter how fast we want to run on the show today, yeah, you just talked about the DNA thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's something that is on the it's on social media everywhere. People are talking about it at this point in time. And also, you know, the Bobrisky issue, you know, the man or the woman who has finally been convicted and sentenced for 6 months?
6 months.
6 months in prison. And there's so much conversation around it. And people are asking, why now? We saw this coming a long time, didn't we?
You did.
And nobody said anything. Why now? And is this a stitch in time? We do not know.
We do not know.
Yeah?
I think we should unravel that at some point.
Okay.
Because for me, I've always said that the Bobrisky incident, for instance, is like a rat who's about to die. That's when the rat starts. Because I think he got a little too...
Too comfortable.
He or she got
encouraged. You know, he was celebrated.
Got too bold.
Yeah, because he was celebrated.
His wings, his or her...
Are you sure his wing or her wings? Because there are thousands of Bobriskos around, you know, there are so many of them around.
To send a message out.
All right.
So, well, that would be...
Okay, and because this is a family, you know, based program, we are very, very concerned about issues like this, you know, but we're not judgmental. We're just sharing our opinion, John.
Yeah.
All right, so we can talk more about... I saw on the Third Mainland Bridge, the excellent job that was just done, and everybody's hailing, you know, that place is just beautiful as it should be. I'm passing there this morning and I see a long stretch of the railings off again.
I noticed.
The Lagos boys are at it again. And I'm like, who is supervising this?
Yeah, I noticed that too. The railings are going missing.
Oof.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so development, civilization, socialization, and so on, so alien and bringing the worst out of us.
I guess that's it.
The question is, what is the way forward?
We have no idea. We have no idea. It's a very serious question that's begging for an urgent and practical answer. The DNA test stemming the prevalence of paternity fraud is our first concern for today. And Barrister Oluyemi Orija is right here with us. But before we meet her, let's just quickly take, you know, what the people on the streets are saying about this subject matter. When we come back, we will meet the guest.
I would advise that before you know, pop the question of would you marry me, you have to be sure of who you are getting into a marriage with. And if per se you end up not being the father of any of the children, I would strongly advise that the relationship with your wife has to end. That is sure, because you can't trust a woman who will give another man's son to you, because if she can do that, she can do worse. You get? So of course I would advise that a paternity test is a must.
Yes, I will advise my brother to go for a DNA test. If I know what the wife is doing outside, I will advise him to go for a test. If my conscience is clear, I will go. If my conscience is clear, because I know myself, I'm not afraid of anything, I will go for the test, because I know myself.
Yes, I will allow him to go and do test so that he can trust me.
Who says if that child is not yours biologically? Who says he or she cannot benefit from you and you cannot benefit from People get children from orphanage homes, and at the end of the day, it's only those that they tell that knows about it, unless it has become necessary. Like, I mean, when it have a negative impact on that family, I don't see reason, running a DNA test.
What we'll do is start investigation. From the lady, we'll ask her. She will know the father now. If she does not know the father, there's a way she will know the father. We'll start investigation. From there, we'll get to know who the father really is. And take the child to this father. That's all. We don't need to keep a child, somebody else's child. What about if that man does not have any child? And that could be the only child the person has. From the beginning till the last child, I will do that. To be on the safer side, it's better. Yes, I will.
Yes, if I know the child belongs to him, why should I be scared? As far as I'm faithful to him, so I won't be scared of anything.
There is this saying in Africa that it's only the woman that knows the true father of her child. Mean that your wife or some women can do something and without your knowledge. So somehow I want to do that. But before I do that, I want to digress a bit. Number one, danger in doing that is that sometimes the real father of that child, the biological father of that child, might be aware that the woman child is actually his. And there's tendency that such man can come with claims in the future, of which if you go to court and court insists on DNA test, and if the DNA test comes out positive, mean that you are bound to lose. Meaning, in other words, you must have suffered for maybe 10, 15, 20 years training another person's child. But we are Africans. And in African setting, from using Nigeria as a case study, we are in southwest, that's Yoruba land, Lagos to be precise. In Yoruba land, they have a way of checkmating infidelity, especially on the part of women. Okay, where sometimes if a woman has a extramarital affair, the two of them might come together and refuse to separate. But in eastern part where I came from, there is this issue of whenever a woman is involved in premarital affair and at the same time comes home to use that same hand to cook for her husband and for her children, in fact there's going to be a problem in the home. For my fellow men, I think it's good if you are skeptical of the actual status of your children.
Oh my goodness. This is what they say wahala dey.
I'm telling you.
Anyway, our first guest is a legal practitioner of 11 years post-call active experience in criminal and civil litigation. Propelled by her interest in human rights, access to justice, conflict resolution, and building stronger institutions, our guest has led her team to provide legal aid for over 600 wrongly imprisoned inmates. Our guest has been honored and recognized nationally and internationally for her work at Headforth Foundation as one of BBC's 100 most influential and inspirational women in 2021.
And to promote capacity development for the inclusion of marginalized communities on human rights issues, Oluyemi translated Chapter 4 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended to into the three major Nigerian languages. Awesome. Oluyemi Orija is Executive Director and Founder, Headforth Foundation. You are welcome. So young again, and so much you have done. And I'm wondering how early you started.
Absolutely early, I must say. Thank you for having me.
We set the table
Before
for you with the Vox Pop that you saw earlier. And I know that there are a lot of questions that viewers out there would like to have answered. So let's start this way. Could you just explain what paternity fraud is and why it's an important issue to talk to Nigerians about?
Yeah, okay. So basically, we were saying paternity fraud. And I'm so skeptical to even call it fraud because there's really no law that is saying fraud per se, right? However, it's simply saying a woman has a child, presumably with her husband, But eventually, it is found out that the husband or the supposed father of the child is not the father, the biological father of the child. So in simple parlance, that's what we term paternity fraud. And it's not just in Nigeria, it's all over the world.
It's not by accident.
Well, that's debatable.
Because someone mentioned in that opinion poll that it is a woman, truthfully, who knows who the father of her child is.
Biologically, sometimes a woman may actually not know, and that's why I said initially that it's hard to say fraud, because if you're saying fraud, it means it's a crime, and for you to prove crime, you must prove intention. All right. So how is it possible that, how can we confirm that the woman intentionally gave somebody else's child to the supposed father?
I think in this instance, it's your law profession that's working against you. Because in the face of the world, I mean, without being legal, this is fraud.
Yeah, but she just said it is not fraud until you have proven that there's intent. Whatever.
Yeah.
All right. So moving on, what are some of the common challenges? We know that when this blows out, there are challenges. What are the common challenges that we face or that are faced by individuals who suspect that they may be victims of paternity fraud?
So the first thing is, of course, for you to start to suspect that you must have seen something. Okay, if you see something and you want to be sure that indeed this child is mine, the first thing is that the constitution of that family is getting broken. Okay, so it's eventually going to affect both the victim, the entire institution. Don't forget, this child might have other siblings that they now have connections. They now presume that this is my brother, this is my sister. You get it? So you're breaking a whole lot that is far beyond the immediate situation you're handling. Now, it's going to get to affect the child himself, he or she, in question. Psychologically, mentally, it's going to affect this child. Now, if you eventually carry out the test and find that this child is not yours, you're going to take action. In most cases, divorce is instituted if they were married statutorily. Okay. And, it's very hard for me because I also know that the law presumes that a child is legitimate in as much as the child is born within wedlock, when there is a valid marriage between the mother and the supposed father. The law presumes that the man is the child, but it's a rebuttable presumption. And the only way you rebut that is probably through scientific tests like a DNA test, right? But the truth is, it affects not just the family, not just the children, but even the society at large. And that's why you go to family court today, you realize that the level and the rate of divorce is so high. It's so high. And I always say that these things has been, it's not just today. Paternity fraud or whatever we call it, mistake, has always been.
Did I hear you say
mistake?
It could be mistake.
It could be mistake.
It could.
And I'm thinking when you say, if the DNA proves, comes out positive, what if it comes negative? What if the result is negative? There's so much harm that has been done.
Yeah. Which, I put myself, not talking as a lawyer, but as a woman, if you conduct a DNA test on my child, and eventually you found out that you're the real father of the child, there is something broken. That marriage is already, you don't trust me. There's something that made you want to take beyond that action. So either ways, whether positive or negative, is going to affect the institution of the marriage eventually.
Which is why I picked on that word mistake. You don't put your hand in the pot of stew by mistake.
No. Okay, I give an instance, right? A woman got married shortly after he had had sexual intercourse with another man. Conceived without knowing. Women conceive months without even knowing that they are pregnant. It happens. Okay. And then you got married to another man with the belief that you're not pregnant. You had intercourse with the man upon marriage. and then eventually you then find out you have conceived, you're pregnant. You just might not believe that it could have been before the marriage.
Of getting married and still playing.
And then
possible.
Like 1 month.
Possible.
Maximum 2 months.
Possible.
She was still dipping her hand in
absolutely.
Something else.
Fire.
Yeah. Possible.
Interesting.
Possible.
Okay. So now this whole paternity fraud or paternity mistake, right, is not peculiar to us as Nigerians.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So now what I want to know is how prevalent, what is the size of this problem or of this error, right? What's the size in our environment, Nigeria?
And how come it's so much, it's so much in our faces now? Why now?
Because, okay, first of all, it's huge. The last statistic I saw is about 80% of DNA tests conducted comes out negative.
80% of DNA
meaning that the supposed fathers of those children are not. Okay? Meaning that 1 out of 4 DNA tests conducted says that the fathers are not the biological father of the children. So it is very prevalent.
But you only would proceed, you'd normally proceed to DNA testing if there is a doubt.
Absolutely.
So the 80% shouldn't be alarming. Already there's a question mark that leads you to the DNA clinic.
But in these days, people relocate. Upon immigration and all of that, they find out some of these things without necessarily doubting. So now we have circumstances that is leading people to say we have to do a DNA test. And do not forget, most of our Nigerian people go outside of Nigeria to birth their children. Upon birthing of children in some communities, DNA test is compulsorily conducted, and then they find out at that early stage. So it is something that is here, but I think that social media has blown it out of proportion. Just like sexual offense has always been, but in Africa we deal with the culture of silence. People really do not talk. Okay, as much as it is so prevalent, the truth is, how many people are even doing it? It's so expensive. It's not everybody that can afford it. So some people have doubts, but they're not taking action because they cannot even afford to take action. Whoa. So it is bigger than what we're seeing. But as Africans, as Nigerians, it has. I'm from a remote village in Ekiti State, right? And I've seen this thing happen even as a child, okay? I've seen it, and our fathers accepted it. They knew, some fathers know this is my child, and this woman is taking it to her husband, and they accepted it. And even these days, fertility issues is also there. Men contribute, largely to infertility issues. Okay, and so some women even say they are helping their husbands.
No, don't go there.
If we're going to all
we've asked people questions. Why did you do this? And some say my husband cannot father a child. I want to cover his shame. I've seen clients.
No, don't go there.
We've seen movies like in that light.
It's not even me.
What kind of favor is that?
I've seen a man know that this is not the father of a child, but accepts to train the child because he knows he cannot father a child.
Okay, so that's with his consent.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's an agreement,
that's not fraudulent.
Not even agreement.
That's an arrangement.
He knew.
That's an arrangement.
Because he knows is, infertility issues is so dicey. Men know they are infertile, but they will not communicate with their spouse.
But if you consent to your wife to step out and help you,
you don't know if you haven't agreed, if you haven't told her that you have an issue.
Yeah,
and she finds out somehow, and she wants solution.
So things happen. It's not a one-size-fits-all situation. It's based on the circumstances.
It's deeper than we think.
Absolutely.
All right. So what legal avenues are available? When all of this has been blown out, everybody knows what legal avenues are available for individuals to address paternity. Well, fraud or mistake, as you say. And how effective are these options, in stabilizing the family?
Okay, In the legal space, right, there is no precedent anywhere that somebody that you have taken an action called quote and unquote paternity fraud, because it does not exist in our law. Law does not criminalize the fact that a woman has said to you that you are the father of a child that you're not. So it does not exist in our law. So because it does not exist in our law, it then means you cannot take any legal action concerning that. But much more than that, I think there are some actions that can stem from it. And one of it is issues of perjury, because by the time you conceive a child, you do birth certificate, you do all forms of documentation, which are public document. And on this public document, if you have said there that Mr. A is the father of this child, you know, if you know the procedure of doing a child's a birth certificate, you know that it entails affidavit, which is a public document. So by the time you then put it there that Mr. A is the father of this child, and it is found out that it is not, you can take an action on perjury, because it means you have deliberately or you have deceitfully say that this person, but not paternity fraud, because that is not a crime. And much more than that, people eventually institute action of divorce, you know, but the children suffers, you know. So it is huge. And for me, I say, if you can, some people accept the child, but dissolve the marriage. You know, so a lot of actions, it just depends on the man and how he perceives this situation and the action they want to take. But legally, for paternity fraud, there's no such thing in Nigeria.
Okay. Well, I'll confess to you that when I saw the topic, I was like, thank God, somebody's coming to protect us men. You know, now, but the way you are now saying that, it may be there's no law, there's nothing in law that says it's a criminal act to step out of.
But it's really not a criminal act. Is it?
I think that should be
legally. Yeah.
Okay. But you see now, I know a lot of men are beginning to sweat. Yeah. More outside there, even with your revelations. You know, but so we need support, right? What support services are available, for instance, you know, to individuals who have been affected by paternity fraud, both legally and emotionally, or error?
I think emotionally is what we should hold dear now, because at the end of the day, it affects a whole lot of things. For men, people slip into depression because of this, especially when the children are all grown and you have sacrificed a lot to bring those children up, then eventually realize that they are not yours. It could affect the men emotionally to the point, if psychologically, a lot of people could lose it. Some people could commit suicide because of,
you won't even want to see anyone.
You know, that kind of thing. So it's a lot, and I think that men who suffer this really need to seek help mentally and emotionally by probably the one that best work for you, visit a professional person, or at least talk to people. It's hard to say. And I understand how Nigerian can deal in silence. It's really hard to say.
Do you talk to people about it?
Well, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a therapist either. But legally, the only advice I would give on a legal point of view is, if you know, because don't forget, it can also lead to murder. You can kill this woman. Yes. You know, most people are in prison because of domestic issues like this that led to bigger things. All right. So because you don't want to either kill yourself or kill someone else, just go away. You know, just leave the marriage.
Don't ever see that person again.
Well, that's up to the man. You know.
Okay.
You know, sometimes I think it was 2022, there was a very prominent chief judge sometime in Delta area who found out, and the children were already grown up. You know, and then you begin to, the relationship already established between this father
and the children.
And there's so much like,
imagine the one that had died, the woman had died before the man found out.
Okay, you know what?
And the man is probably old now. unable to begin to father more children.
Yeah,
there's so much.
You know what we'll do? We will have to set this up again.
Okay.
Because some people are screaming
Finally.
in my ears.
Finally.
We have to stop.
A message, just a final word to people who are watching this show. Just a final word.
Okay, so my final word would majorly be, it happens. If it does happen to you, please, it is not the end of the world. And as much as it might seem that we do not have legal solutions to the problem, but emotionally and at the end of the day, your life values much more. Those kids could be, you could take them, just depending on how you perceive the situation. But please, your life is worth more.
And it's not a sin that cannot be forgiven.
Absolutely.
Anyway.
Women also forgive infidelity.
Yeah. So life can go on.
Great. Men have kids outside and women take them.
For another day. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. This has been so refreshing. We have learned so much from you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Thank you.
Well, I'll need a refreshing drink after this. I can't feel me refreshing for me.
Alright, so you're still tuned to Plus TV Africa and watching Today with John and Helen live. We'll take a break now and would like to say thank you once again for your company, Doctor. We'll take a quick break now. When we come back, our next guest who will be helping us to look at first aid and CPR is already in the house, and I'm sure it's a must watch for you because there's so many things happening around us that we need to know about how we can take care of ourselves and value our lives. We'll be back in just a moment. Please stay with us.